this is Jen. Welcome to my channel. Today, we're going to take a journey back in time. And you're going to find out some interesting things you might not have known about me. So follow me along right here on Garden Jen's Journey. So welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. So glad to have you along today and be a part of the journey here on the homestead. Today's journey is quite different from any other journey that I've taken you guys on so far on this channel. And I hope that you find it a blessing to you and maybe an encouragement if you're going through something similar. So today, this journey has a beginning of 44 years ago. 44 years ago, in 1977, I was born. And I lived in a little town called Grayling for my younger years. And then I moved to central Michigan and grew up mostly in Clare and the surrounding areas for the remainder of my adolescent time. And as a young adult, we moved to Florida for a few years, and both of my kids were born in Florida. And I got homesick, so after about 5 years down in Florida, we moved back up here to cold Michigan. I'm shooting my video right here in my greenhouse today because it is cold and we actually have snow. I don't know if you can see it here on my panels of the greenhouse. They are covered in snow. And I missed that when I lived in Florida. In Florida, it's beautiful. It's beautiful to visit when you're used to living up north. Florida is a beautiful place to visit. But when you're used to living up north, there's some things up here that, sorry Florida, you just don't have. And so we moved up here to Michigan, and I moved back to central Michigan, and this has been home sweet home ever since. Now, part of that journey that I took, and took for a long, long time, was the journey of knowing that I was adopted. I was partially adopted. I lived with my birth mother, and when she got remarried in the 80s, her husband adopted me. And so that's why I call it a partial adoption, because I lived with my birth mother, and then it was her husband who adopted me. And I'm getting rained on by the melting snow. Anyways, let's see, I'll move ahead just slightly. Anyways, so as with many adoptees, I had questions. I had questions of who my birth parents were, why'd they give me up, did I have any of their siblings out there from the birth parent, all sorts of those things. You know, what kind of hereditary conditions pass through the family health-wise. Because when you go to the doctor's office, you have to fill out those questionnaires, and I could only fill out one side of the family. I had no idea what kind of health issues may exist on the other side. So there was another, I have no idea. And also lineage. Where am I from? Where do my ancestors come from? And so there was all sorts of questions there. And unfortunately, like some adoptees find out, either their birth family and or their adopted family really isn't too keen on them digging up bones, so to speak. You know, they just live by the adage, live and let die. Just let dead dogs lie. Don't bury up old bones. But I had a sister out there. My mom had told me that I had a sister. And so I wanted to find this sister. As a little girl, that's something I always dreamed about, was having sisters. And my mom and her new husband, they had 2 boys. And so no sisters for me, just brothers. And in my childhood, it was quite volatile. I remember some good times. There were some good times there. My parents did take good care of me, all things considered. I was raised in a good home as far as income and social status and things like that with my family. But as an individual, I felt lost and unwanted. I felt as if I was living the Cinderella story. I did not feel valued or appreciated. That I was, being kind of used to be the babysitter and the domestic housekeeper, so to speak, while my mom worked and things like that. And I could never do anything right. It seemed like I was always getting in trouble for something. And like I said, there was good times in my childhood. I remember my dad had bought my mom and I horses, so we could have horses for a little while. They had bought me a car for my 16th birthday. My dad had taken me on a couple road trips with him to different functions and things like that. So, he tried to show me that he loved me and that he cared for me and things like that. But still there was that overwhelming feeling that I just didn't belong, that I really wasn't wanted. And I was a constant reminder of a mistake of days gone by that they wish they could just forget. That's how I felt. Whether they meant it that way or not, that's between them and God. But that's how I felt. So, my mom really didn't give me any details about my father too much. Like I said, it was more of those let dead dogs lie kind of thing. But as I got older, she would feed me little tidbits of information that she had, like what my dad's name was, where he was from, that she knew he had a brother, and what his mom's name was, just little tidbits. And as I got older, when I became an adult and moved out of my parents' home for good, I started working on trying to locate my birth family. I mostly wanted to be able to talk to my father and say, why'd you give me up? What was it about me that you ran away, kind of thing. Because that's kind of the story I was told, that my father up and ran away, kind of thing. And I don't want to bash my mom too much here, because I believe in the commandment, honor thy father and thy mother. But just to give you guys a general idea of how I grew up, what I felt like, and just the stories that I had grown up with as far as what happened. So anyways, like I was saying, when I was an adult and I finally moved out, I started looking for my birth family. And it took a long time to be able to get enough information to really look, because unless you have names and birth dates and relatives and things like that, you're not really going to find much, because this is a big world and there's a lot of people who share similar names. Right here in Michigan, I think in the same county or the next county over, there's a young lady who has my name. I think our middle name is different, but still my name. So, and that's just in this state, in the next county over. So if you can imagine, even in one state or one country, there's so many people who share the same first and last name, and sometimes a middle initial if you don't know the full middle name. So trying to find people with just a little bit of information is very hard to do. So it took me a long time. It was about 2010. I came across Ancestry.com, And at the time, my mother and I were on speaking terms. She was going through her genealogy and trying to find things on her family tree. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to do that on my family tree as well. Because I was now married, and so I wanted to put my family tree together and my husband's family tree together, so my kids kind of knew where they were coming from on both sides. So I started with Ancestry.com, and I think they gave like a month free trial or something like that before you had to purchase a subscription to really find a lot of detail. So for that month, I spent a lot of time plugging in the little information I knew, like who my grandmother was, the name of my uncle, and kind of where they were located. And with those bits and pieces, I got a hit on their hints that Ancestry gives. They give you little hints that you can look at that gives either newspaper clippings or records of divorce, death, whatever. And so I was able to look at the hints and see that my uncle had passed away, and I could view his obituary. And so I did. I viewed his obituary, and I was able from that to gather some more names to fit into my family tree and continue on, getting a little closer to find my immediate family. And it took a long, long time. One of the last conversations my mom and I had, and it wasn't really a conversation, she sent me a package in the mail. She was quite livid with me. Like I said, we had a very volatile relationship. But she sent me a package, and it had a lot of stuff in there. It had the original wedding pictures of my mom and my biological father. And it had some other bits and pieces of information in there that would help me be able to continue with my search. And that was really cool to get that information. And at times I wonder why my mom didn't just give me all that stuff at one time. You know, why drag it out through 10, 15 years of a little piece of breadcrumb here, a little piece of breadcrumb there. But again, I think with her, she just wanted to let dead dogs lie, and she didn't want to dig up the past, so to speak. I think it was really painful for her, to give her the benefit of the doubt. I think it was probably really painful for her, and she just didn't want to deal with it. So she dealt with it the way she could, I guess. But anyways, eventually I was able to contact my aunt on my dad's side and talk to her briefly. She was really sick at that time. I think she had emphysema. If I remember right, she had emphysema. And she gave me some information. She gave me a nickname that was very special for my sister that I was trying to find. And I knew with that piece of information that I would be able to validate I am who I am when I find my birth family, because it was a very, very unique nickname. It's not something that, you know, people would think of. But anyways, so I talked to my Aunt Sue, and she told me, unfortunately, she wouldn't be able to get a hold of my birth father because they moved around a lot. They didn't have the same phone number and things like that, so there would be no way that she could contact her brother-in-law for me and let him know, hey, you know, I'm searching for him. And a couple of years, like a year or two after I contacted her, I found that she had passed away. So I had hit a brick wall. You know, at least I had found one living relative. A lot of my relatives were dead and couldn't give me any leads. But she had died. And then through her obituary, I was able to find her children, my cousins. And so I started searching to find some information, some contact information to try to get a hold of them. And I paid a little change, you know, doing public records, trying to get phone numbers, addresses, and things like that. Sometimes you gotta pay a little money to get that information because it's not free anymore. You can't just look in a phone book, you know, and be able to get that. You can't just call directory assistance. You know, privacy issues have really, really skyrocketed, and so you can't just easily find somebody's name and address anymore. So I found the name and address of some cousins, and I sent them mail, or I sent them letters saying, hey, who I was, you know. And then I think a week after I sent the mail out, I actually had a phone number, and I called one of my cousins, and I had spoke to one of them, and I gave them my story. I said, hey, this is, you know, Jen, and I've been looking for my father and my sister and things like that. And I kind of gave him some information as far as, you know, these are my relatives, and, you know, this is who my dad was married with, and things like that, to try to validate I am who I am. I'm not just some creep trying to call. It's not a scam call or something like that. And he was very interested with my story. He was kind of listening, and he was like, wow, that's interesting, and things like that. And he had told me that his brother was the one who was in contact with my birth father, which was their uncle. And that he would send the message along to his brother and have his brother contact my father and give him the contact information. And if my dad wanted to contact me, that, you know, that was up to him. The ball would be in his court. And that was quite a few years ago. I want to say around 5 years ago or so. I used to have a bunch of notes that I took in a binder. And I highly, highly, highly recommend that if you're trying to find somebody, keep your notes in a binder so you can go back on them. Sometimes just glancing over something, you might see that you missed something, or you see something fresh that could help you in your journey on locating whoever it is you're trying to locate. So I had a binder with notes in it of the journey and who I contacted, or how I found this, or how I found that. So I was able to go back and look at things later on. And anyways, so that was around 5 years ago or so. And I never heard anything. Never heard anything. And pretty much at that point, because I had talked to a cousin who supposedly knew my dad and such, I kind of gave up because I never heard anything back. And there was no other way to find my dad or my sibling unless somebody died, because that would be in the obituary. Anyways, so that's where I was. I was at brick wall again. I was like, okay, I'm done. You know, this has taken a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of emotion, and I tried moving on with my life, like, well, I'm just never going to have answers, and that is what it is. And sometimes as adoptees, that is what it is. We never get answers. There's always those questions that never get answered because we never find those answers. And so I was trying to swallow that pill and just move on and be like, okay, you know. And then last week, I started looking at my ancestry again because I wanted to find out where I came from. I was really into that. A lot of people were talking about their lineage, and I knew that my grandparents on my mother's side had barely missed sinking on the Titanic. And I couldn't remember the exact dates. So the Titanic sunk in April of oh boy, I'm going to get the date messed up again. 1912. So in 1912, the Titanic sank. And I knew that my grandparents came over on that same exact route from England to America. And so I was trying to remember when they came over. And then so I was researching that. My great-grandfather came over in 1910. My great-grandmother, his wife, eventually followed over in 1914. So sandwiched right between the two in 1912 was when the Titanic sank. So I'm thankful that neither one of them were on the Titanic. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here sharing my story with you today. Not that I want to make light of those who died in that horrible accident, but I'm just thankful that it wasn't my grandparents, and I am here. So anyways, I was finding my lineage, going back to see how far I could go back. I'm English and also French Canadian on my mom's side. So I was like, oh, that's really, really cool, you know. I started researching my dad and my husband's side of the family because we're German on that side. So I was like, okay, how far back can I go? Because I have some friends who are like back in the 1500s as far back in their lineage. I'm like, that's really, really cool. You know, how far back can I go with the limited kinds of records that are kept? So anyways, I got done doing some research and I went to bed. And as many of you know, who've been with me for a long time, you know that I have health issues. I struggle with fibromyalgia, I have chronic fatigue syndrome, anxiety, depression, a whole bunch of stuff that I deal with on a regular basis. And I couldn't sleep because I was just too anxious, I was hurting, I just could not sleep. And I felt the Lord impress me to go work on my lineage some more, or go work on my family tree some more. I'm like, okay, you know, I felt I kind of went as far as I could go without having to pay for ancestry extra services. And so I was like, okay, I'll go back and, you know, just mess around with it some more. Apparently there's something I'm missing or something. And for some reason, I was looking at my birth family lineage again, and there was some hints that were flagging for my dad and his wife. And I was like, you know, I had looked at them before and they really didn't get me anywhere because they're like their marriage certificate or something like that, which I already knew. So, you know, I'm like, but for some reason, I was like, I'm just going to click on them again just to see if maybe some more information has all of a sudden appeared. And so I clicked on one of their names, and one of the hints that it was showing, and when they give you a hint, it just shows just a tiny bit of information as far as what that hint is related to and kind of where it's being pulled from, whether it's a newspaper or whether it's public records like court documents or something like that. So I was able to see something caught my eye on those hints. It had mentioned that the information was either from a death certificate or an obituary, and I can't remember exactly what it was offhand. So I was like, death. Death is something you can usually find if you Google, especially if it's an obituary. That's public information because it's usually put in a newspaper or on a funeral home website or something like that. So I hopped over to Google and Googled my birth family's name and death, and within just a couple seconds I had right in front of me the obituary of my father and his wife. They had passed away in 2017 in a horrific car and semi-truck accident. I think they died on scene. But anyways, so my dad's gone, and so is his wife. But in that obituary was the names of my siblings. And that was huge. I had never had the names of my siblings in over 40 years. And I've been searching for over 20 now. So I never had names of my siblings, only the nickname of the sister that I knew that I had. And that was huge. Huge, huge, huge. So, I went to Facebook. And I tried this a couple years ago when I had found out my cousins, or not a couple years ago, but when I found my cousins, I tried using Facebook to find them on Facebook and get a hold of them that way, and that didn't work out. So I'm getting on Facebook now, hoping I can find my siblings. And you know, people don't have to accept your messages if they don't know who you are. And you know, sometimes those messages go in a special folder that, unless you're looking in that special folder, you wouldn't even know that you got a message. And so I'm like, oh boy. Let's see if I can find these people on Facebook, and let's see if they'll accept my message after I find them. So there was two big ifs right there. So I started searching and searching and searching, and I had 3 names. I had 3 siblings that were listed. I had Kathleen, I had Joyce, and I had Ruth. And so I started searching, and I found Kathleen first, and that was kind of cool. And then as I went through the public information she had available on her Facebook page, I was able to find Joyce. And through the information that she shared and then her husband shared, I was able to find information that solidified that this was my family that I had been looking for over 20 years. I'm going to show you a picture of what that was right now. So that is the grave marker of my father and his wife. And Joyce and her husband visit the cemetery very often. They have some other family members there, and so they visit the cemetery quite regularly, freshen the flowers up and just pay their respects. And so there's quite a few pictures of grave markers on Joyce's husband's page, because again, that's just something that they do as a family, is visit the cemetery. And I had to take a step back. I had to collect myself and breathe, because that was vital. That picture right there like spoke 1,000 words, and some of them I didn't want to hear. I mean, when you've been searching for somebody for so long, and then you finally find them, but they're dead, it really just hits your heart, hits your gut hard, because now you never get to speak to them and talk to them and ask questions. And that was hard. It was hard to see that my dad and his wife were gone. So I couldn't ask my dad all those questions that I had, you know, the whys and things like that and stuff. Yeah, so that was hard. But at least I had evidence that this person that I was looking at on Facebook was my relation. I had found my family. And eventually, through some more digging, I found my other sister, Ruth. So that was kind of cool. And so I will show you a picture of my 3 sisters that I found. So that picture was taken at my sister Ruth's wedding. That's how I was able to find Ruth, is because of the picture that was on, I think, Joyce's husband's page. Got to give a lot of credit to Joyce's husband, Pedro. He had a lot of family pictures on there. He's big into family, and which is awesome. But anyways, so those are my 3 sisters. And I contacted Kathy first, since she was the first one I found. I sent a message to her, Then I ended up sending a message over to Joyce, and then I sent a message over to Ruthie. And again, like I said, I know how Facebook works or doesn't work half the time. So I had 3 leads out there, and waiting to see if anybody would bite the hook, so to speak. Anybody would respond, because again, I didn't know if they would respond to somebody they did not know, or if my message was in a spam folder that they wouldn't see. I didn't know. So, but almost immediately after I sent the message to Ruth, she messaged me back. And she asked, you know, who's your dad and stuff like that. Because I had said something along the line like, you know, I know you don't know who I am, but, you know, if you are the daughter of Tom and Joyce, I believe I am your half-sister. And so she was like, well, who's your dad? And I said, you know, Tom. And I showed her a picture of the gravestone. And I also shared with her a screenshot of my family tree genealogy I'd been working on. And she was like, oh my, you are our sister. We have been searching for you for a long time. I just broke down in tears. And I was having like a panic attack because not only did she respond, but she confirmed that she was my sister. And she also told me that they had been searching for me as long as I had been searching for them. And that was a lot to take in, a lot to absorb. And so we talked for a few. She was at work. So she sent me to go talk to the other sister, who's a homemaker. And so I talked to Joyce all day that day, and just shooting the bull, kind of just trying to figure out who we were and what I've been through, what stories I've been told, and what information they knew on their side of the equation. And it was just amazing, just amazing. And so this journey that I had been taking for over 20 years, trying to find my birth family, was over. I had finally found them. Now a new journey starts. A journey of moving forward, trying to catch up on lost time. 40 years is a long time to try to catch up with each other and learn about each other and their families and all those things. And so that's the new journey that we are taking. We are moving forward and just going to try to work as a family unit. I will be taking a trip down to see them around the New Year's. And hopefully I'll be able to take you guys with me. I'll do some videos, some pictures and things like that, because this is part of my journey. And you know, this is what my channel is about. It's about my journey in life and everything it covers, everything. And so I will take you guys along and you know, just give you guys a kind of little peek into my brand new world, brand new journey as far as my personal family life. And I hope you follow along, because I want to give you guys who might be adoptees or somehow separated from your family encouragement that you should keep looking, keep looking. Even if it feels like you've hit a dead end. Take a break, take a step back, give it some time, and then hit at it again. And maybe something will come of your efforts. It did of mine, and I am so thankful. I have the Lord to thank for this, because He is the one who told me, keep going, keep going, keep going. And so I did. And so that's my encouragement to you guys today. This kind of journey, like I said, took over 20 years of active searching. Well, 20 years since I started searching, I should say. I took a break here and there. And I've seen stories that have taken 40-some years of people searching. So that's twice as long as I've been searching. So don't give up. Keep going. Thank you for sticking with me on this video today. If you found it beneficial, if you found it encouraging, make sure you give it a thumbs up and share it with those who maybe would gain a blessing from this. I want my story to help somebody else finish their story. If you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button below. I'd love to have you on the journey and take you along for the ride as we continue moving forward from here. So make sure you subscribe. As always, everybody, I hope that wherever you are, you're wonderfully blessed. So until next time, bye-bye.